Do you avoid making decisions? If you do, stick around. You should know this, because for many years, I avoided making decisions. And in fact, now, hi Sherry, how are you? In fact, now I still have a bit of a pattern, a bit of a habit of not wanting to make decisions. But now I'm more aware of it. I'm more conscious of it. So I want you to have a think. If you are watching this, have a little think and think, are you someone that tends to avoid making decisions? And if so, why is that the case? See, for me, when I started understanding all this, what I realized was I was avoiding taking responsibility for things. Why? In case it went wrong. Case it went wrong and I made a mistake. Oh no, that was the way my mind was working. So I couldn't put up with that failure. I didn't want to accept responsibility for that failure. Can you relate to this? If you can, if you're watching, feel free to comment. So you someone that puts off making decisions, you procrastinate, or maybe you try and get someone else to make the decisions for you as well. So what I did was I was avoiding making these decisions because I didn't want to potentially be wrong. I sometimes always felt that I wasn't even good enough to make the decisions. That was a lack of self-worth. Low self-esteem. If you are someone that suffers from low self-esteem, low self-worth, again, maybe you are someone that doesn't like to make decisions. You somehow feel that you're not worthy enough to make a decision. For example, is that you, or do you know someone else like that? Maybe you don't like making decisions in certain areas of your life. Well, that tells you something. It tells you that really you need to start taking responsibility in that area of your life. Because if you're not taking action and not making decisions, not making choices in a certain area of your life, it indicates that maybe somehow you're afraid of that. It could be that it's lower down on your values list, but often it might be that you're a bit more afraid of that for whatever reason. You don't feel empowered in that area of your life. So obviously what you want to do is you might want to learn more about it. It could be an educational sort of thing, but if not, start to make some decisions. And hey, if you make some wrong decisions, what you deem as being wrong, well, at least you then know that, and then you learn and you grow. So really it is a habit, it's a pattern. And like a lot of these things, it's subconscious until you become aware of it. Once you become aware of it, then you can start to get more and more of it into your conscious mind. So here's some strategies. First of all, where possible, go with your heart and gut. Now, on countless occasions, I've maybe had a gut feeling about something, but not necessarily gone with it. So if you really do feel that a certain choice is more what your heart is telling you, what your soul is telling you, or it's coming from a higher source, probably it's a good idea to go in that direction and make those decisions. Sometimes what happens is if you delay, especially with little small decisions, obviously big decisions might need a lot of weighing up pros and cons, etc., and that's fully understandable. But if it's a small decision, sometimes literally after about 5 seconds, your mind will talk you out of something, that little voice in your head that talks you out. So sometimes you need to get into the habit of making a decision like that on the spot. Again, I'm not an expert in this at the minute. I'm getting better. I'm growing. I'm developing at these kind of things myself. Now, how about this? How about if it's a big decision, could you take one step towards that? Could you go one step further? This could be a little bit of research. This could be contacting someone. You're not yet ready to make the decision, but instead of just standing on the starting blocks on the starting line, is it possible that you can take a couple of steps forward by doing things like asking people, inquiring, doing some research, doing a pros and cons list, seeking someone else's opinion? Not that they should take over your decision, of course, but that can be a step forward. Once you start to take a step forward, Sherry, thank you. Yes, one step. Absolutely. Once you start to take a step forward, then you hopefully become more knowledgeable. And with that knowledge comes more empowerment, where you feel that you now have the power to make that decision because you're more aware of things. So brilliant. Yeah, one step at a time, Sherry. Thank you. Absolutely right. Absolutely. Something you could do is give yourself a deadline. These are all strategies for different decisions, and what might work for one person might not work for another. But sometimes giving yourself a deadline, you know, I've done that in the past where I've said, right, I've got to make the decision by this deadline. Okay, so what you're doing there is you're holding yourself accountable, and it's amazing the power of a deadline, isn't it? How you can, you know, really all of a sudden that deadline is approaching, so I've got to make that decision. So that can be powerful as well. Accountability. Now, I'll give you an example of this. I put up a poster, a picture recently of myself when I did a fire walk, walking over hot coals, probably about 3 or 4 years ago now. But I put that up recently just with some things that I'd learned from that. But the thing for me was that at the time, that wasn't half as scary as some of the other things that I'm aware that I'm scared of or fearful of. So I have acknowledged, for example, that something like me doing like a Wim Hof ice bath experience would be something that I would be much more fearful of. I think I would potentially struggle a lot more with that. So therefore, I'm more likely to avoid it. So I was speaking to one of my friends the other day, and I said, well, you know, maybe we should do this together. And again, what I've done there is just taken a step forward, and I've added a little bit of accountability because he was interested in that as well. So I've sort of put the idea out there, and he will hold me a bit more accountable to that. So getting someone else to hold you accountable for making a decision can be a good idea as well. I think a big thing for me was about getting into the mindset of being okay with whatever choice I made. And this is an important thing. Again, this is Inner Anthem Insights. This is about insights I've had, things that I've learned about myself or from other people I've worked with. And a big insight was the fact that, again, I was scared to fail. I was scared to supposedly get things wrong, what I perceived as being wrong. And of course, now I'm a bit more enlightened, if you like. I can sort of say, well, there isn't actually a wrong or right. It's just what we think is wrong or right. And of course, all those perceived failures we can learn from and we can grow from. And it's only, if you want success, you've got to go through failure. If that success is worth anything, you've got to sort of go through failure if it's a big form of success. Okay, so I'm not saying that, you know, it's no pain no gain, but generally on your route to success, whatever success might be for you, you're gonna go through some failure. So the quicker you go through that failure, guess what, the quicker you reach success. That is actually how it works. So for me, I had to be okay with failure. I had to be okay with those mistakes. I had to say, okay, that's fine. All is well. I'm okay. I'm still alive. And forgiveness was a big thing for that as well. Forgive yourself. The more you can forgive yourself for any choice you make, any decision you make, whether it's the wrong choice, whether it's the right choice, whatever, the more you can forgive yourself for that, the better. And also forgive yourself for not making choices as well, not making decisions. But now you can choose to start making decisions. So I hope that has helped you today. The whole thing is, it's one thing just listening to this. It's another thing actually then having a little think about how and if this relates to you and your life and your mindset. So where are you avoiding decisions? Why? There's got to be a reason. Your mind is protecting you from something. What is it protecting yourself from? Once you can find that out, then hopefully you're onto a winner. Because your little voice, your ego, your mind wants to protect you from something. So by not making a decision, what is it trying to protect you from? Try and find that out if you can. So Sherry says, forgiving yourself is huge, then start again and just do it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of truth in there. And the power of forgiveness is amazing. And I know you know all about this, Sherry. But yeah, the power of forgiveness is absolutely amazing. Self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others as well. So I am going to love you and leave you right now. If you've got any other comments, if you're watching this on social media or later on YouTube, feel free to write comments. Feel free to ask me questions. I'll try and be as open and honest as possible and help as much as I can. My name is James Dan from Inner Anthem. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing week. And I look forward to catching up with you very soon. Bye for now.